The first reading from the New Testament comes from the book of Revelation. Here the writer has been looking at some of the churches, the early churches, and he's found them wanting. And he says, listen to what the Spirit is now saying to each of you. So here it is. These are the words of the one who walks among the 7 lamps of gold. I know all your ways, your hard work and your courage. You have persisted in the faith and not given it away. But I have this against you. You have lost the love you had at the first. And so to the churches of Sardis, I know all your ways. You have developed a name for being alive, but really you are dead. Wake up and put new strength into the life you have left. And to the church of Laodicea, I know all your ways. I know you're neither hot nor cold. I wish you were one or the other. You say you have done well. You have all you want. But you have so many blind spots. So there is a knocking at the door. If you hear it and open the door, a good presence from outside will come in for an expansive conversation with you. And it will be as if the whole universe has been opened to you, and you will sense that our God is at the very center of life's victorious pathways. Let this Spirit speak to you. And from there I go to the gospel for today. In this passage, Jesus is said to speak of the keys of the kingdom, the keys of heaven. And we're likely to pass over such a phrase without much thought for what it means. Indeed, some sections of the church have used that phrase to make us rather frightened. It's been a phrase of exclusion, to keep us out. But the contrary is more likely. The keys open the door to life, to our potential, to the awareness of our acceptance and belonging. At so many points in life we make mistakes. We carry our sorrows. Our stresses weigh upon us. But we look for the keys of the kingdom, that image, to open a new door for us. That will be a new way to hope, a new way to find faith by which we might live. So would you please stand for the gospel? Jesus said to his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered, "Some say you are John the Baptist. Some say you are Elijah. Others say Jeremiah. And some say you are one of the prophets." Jesus said, and what of you? Who do you say I am? And Simon Peter answered, "You are the one anointed, God's Holy One." And Jesus said, "Oh, Simon, good son of your father, where did you get that from? It surely came to you from the great source of all wisdom. Well are you called Peter, for your name says it all. You are a rock indeed. And upon such rocks my church will stand, and even the gates of hell shall never be closed to it. you will receive the keys of the kingdom, the great gift of access and belonging, giving people the way to open themselves, be open to their best potential, to the fullness of life. These are the readings from the scriptures for today. Would you turn your sheets to the next hymn? It's a hymn we haven't often sung. I think you'll know it, and I hope that you'll sing it with some good commitment and fervour. King of glory, King of peace. Three things that affect the whole of your life, that will affect it, has affected it. Three things, three positive experiences, three things that will make a difference to who you are and what you'll be. Three experiences that we all want to have, indeed that we all need to have, if we're going to live with an ample degree of pleasure, well-being, resilience, and vitality. I want to tell you first of all about a man whom I've known for several decades, in fact. Part of my wider circle for those many years. We knew each other as young men. He was a little older. Many of aspects of his life I frequently admired. Over the later years, we would see each other occasionally, and you know the kind of friendship. Whenever we met up, we knew, as it were, spontaneously who and where we were in life. Always a pleasure to see him. But over the last decade, I've only seen him twice. Several of those years, he has lain almost motionless. He recognizes no one. He doesn't speak. His eyes seem to stare into that somewhere he will never go. He breathes through each day and each night, but the doors to his once generous personality are closed. The body lives, but the mind and spirit are dead. He receives food he is given, but never responds to even the slightest touch. The gospel passage we read today had Jesus say to his disciples, "I will give you the keys of the kingdom." The scholars of the Jesus Seminar have said this is not one of the authentic sayings of Jesus. And I say, well, that's a pity. Because if we understand the idea behind those words, I think we all want the keys of the kingdom. Of course, I know some sections of the church and religion have used those words to frighten people, to tell them that they will be excluded from the kingdom, and so on. That's a very miserable way to interpret these words. The imagery of the keys of the kingdom was imagery that I'm sure was imagery that Jesus could have easily used in his time. For the keys of the kingdom would open the doors to life's full enjoyment, to life's potential, to life's enriching experiences. And that's what he was on about. Today I want to focus on three of such experiences. And the first one I've begun to mention. The experience of mutual, pleasurable recognition, mutual, anticipatory recognition, one of the other. We meet, we recognize each other, we remember each other. There it is. Of course, there are some that in recognizing we would rather move away from, we want to close the door. But life's enrichments are found at the airport every time a plane lands. Every time we see a welcome welcoming, known face coming towards us in the crowd. Every time there is pleasure and enjoyment and mutual recognition. There it is. Once I had it with that man of whom I spoke. Now we don't have it. Years ago, I worked for some years in a mental asylum in Scotland, developing a new method of treatment for people who had chronic schizophrenia. They were locked in a world which was enclosed. All doors were closed on the world, as it were. They lived in a chaotic inner world and had done so for years. That's what the word chronic schizophrenic meant, that there they'd sat for many years. They lived every day. In my book about them, I wrote about meeting and no meeting. Yes, we'd meet every day, but in fact there was no meeting. In the distance of no meeting, there were times, just now and again, when one of them turned to me. I was at that point exploring how existential therapy could work as it attempted to help the person return into the full stream of life and turn to be a person, a fully functioning person again. And I took the words of Martin Buber, that Jewish philosopher, who said this: the basis of man's life is twofold, and it is one. The wish of every man to be confirmed as what he is, even as what he can become. And the innate capacity in every person to confirm his fellow human being in this way. This confirmation, this recognition. We've all been given the keys of that kingdom, of mutual, genuine recognition and confirmation, one of the other. Whenever it happens, really happens, you are experiencing one of the enriching best moments of life. It is a fact that the man of whom I spoke did so much to help others. He worked every day of his professional life in the healing profession to enrich the lives of others. I think he did it with grace and fulfillment. But now, dwelling in that no world, he is a sad but important reminder that the power of mutual, enjoyable recognition is a great gift. It's a great gift that we all have for a time. And when we experience it and express it, it's surely like having the keys of the kingdom. In my work in psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, I'm regularly involved with people who have been damaged by life's experiences, or they've made mistakes in their life and they feel that nothing can be the same again. Sometimes it is a very complex task of tracing what the damage really was and where it most affects the individual. In other instances, it is clear that what the damage was, clear enough. But it's far from clear how we might heal the many damaged places. So let me tell you of one such person. A father has come to see me on and off for several years. More than 8 years ago, his teenage son was killed in a dreadful hit-and-run tragedy. The responsible person was never identified. And the father now says, but what's it matter whether I know who did it or who didn't? What I will always know is I lost a treasured son. His 2 sisters and younger brother act as if they have coped with the worst thing that could happen to a young family, he says. But I recover and then fall back as if totally uncovered. So every so often he comes to see me and he says, I need you to clean my wounds and then to give me some of your stuff to get me driving in the traffic again. I use a method of therapy these days which is called contextual analysis, contextual therapy. I not only focus on the central point, in that therapy I not only focus on the central point of the pain, but I open up areas around the pain, under the pain, and beyond the pain. Contextual analysis looks at many aspects of the person's personality and behavior, their health and adaptive processes, to get things functioning and flowing again. So I'm looking at the fabric around the pain. Just this last couple of weeks, I received this magazine, which is called Scientific American, the April edition, and I was intrigued to read in it an account by a person called, what she called Christina Gorman, and she wrote an article called The Super Glue Cure. What is the super glue cure? Well, she writes in a different language from most of us, I suppose. She writes about the cells of the human body. For years, she says, biologists were so focused on the internal workings of cells in the human body that they pretty much ignored the glue that holds those cells together in a body. Once they started looking into the stuff between and around the cells, known as extracellular matrix, they began to realize just how dynamic the whole arrangement is. The matrix provides what she calls the scaffolding necessary to keep the tissues and the organs from dissolving into a gooey mess. But it also releases signals to help the body heal itself. So when an injury or some damage occurs and the body cannot regenerate tissue, the gaps get filled with dense scar tissue. You know that. The other day I was using a pocket knife to break the seal of an unopened bottle. Clearly the bottle maker, the people didn't want any slick and quick tampering with the bottle. So it took quite a lot of pressure, but it suddenly gave way, and the knife took a slice into my thumb in the process. A Band-Aid for a day, and the body did its healing. No scar, a small bruise still there, but it will be gone soon. Such is the healing capacity of our body. In some instances, we know that the damage is much, much worse than that. And so the surgeons reopen the old wounds, clean out the scar tissue, put in a biological scaffolding and attach it to the nearby healthy, strong tissues. Now, I didn't want to give you a lecture in biology, not at all. For me, that is a fascinating story because using different language, it was giving me an analogous process of healing in psychoanalysis that I do. Thus, the Father says to me, I need you to clean out my wounds, my emotional and psychological wounds. And having done that, I then want you to put in the vital psychological scaffolding to receive and hold the vital super glue. What is the glue, you might ask? It is new energy to live, to get the cells, to get the body, to get the mind to live again. It is the adaptive courage to face what has happened and allow good memory, good emotions, to start building a way of living into a different future. And that's the contextual therapy, to move into the glue around the cell, as it were, or to the glue around the damage. The glue is courage. Some people say to me, I need the glue of laughter. I need the glue of empathy. I need the glue of kindness or strength. And I get it by sitting here quietly for a while. Yes, glue. Courage, laughter, empathy, kindness, strength, quietness. And so I'm intrigued. Because, years ago, Eugene O'Neill, in one of his plays, he wrote, "Man is born broken, he lives by mending. The grace of God," he said, "is glue." The grace of God is glue. Knowing you are held together, surrounded by glue, the grace of God is experiencing that new energy, the gifts of courage, kindness, cognitive reconstruction, quietness. And that is the second experience that will enrich your life. Making sure that glue is there around every mistake or pain you've made. The healing glue, of course. Thirdly, what will enrich your life? I hope that when anyone comes here to St. Michael's, they will feel this is a good place. And they will feel being here enlarges their sense of who they are and what they could become. To reawaken each one of us, all of us, to a new sense of being alive as you come within these walls. Will Self, a novelist, Will Self has written his book called Umbrella. For me, the story immediately evoked the image of my umbrellas. He hardly talked about umbrellas as such. He was talking about something quite different. But my umbrellas came to mind. I need an umbrella. You see, often I leave it behind. I go back and I get it. It waits, knowing it has a purpose. It will be called into action again when it's needed. I'm like my umbrella. Sometimes I'm needed. Sometimes I'm left. Sometimes I wonder if I have any worthwhile purpose, so I wait. I went to get my flu shot early the other morning. I was first off the rank by arrangement. By the time my doctor was saying goodbye to me, he had 6 other people waiting. He was a very needed umbrella. My professional life is rather different. And your life is different too, but the umbrella can be quite important. I hope that you and people will feel that when you're not much wanted, like the umbrella, you will climb the steps here and feel as you enter, here is a place. These walls, these symbols, these colours will speak to you of your part in a larger scheme of things, and might even open the door to a new faith in yourself in the future. You might say umbrellas are not that important, really. They are very important, especially when it is raining. And when they are not on active service, it is important that they're still there, waiting to be called, that they are reliable, and that they're valued. Or I should say that even a damaged umbrella can be called into valued service. As you say, thank God I had that broken umbrella in the back of my car. I had a good umbrella somewhere, but I couldn't find it. So the broken one did the trick. When I was in Zurich some time ago, I was standing at the hotel window overlooking the main shopping mall, a busy thoroughfare. And then there was suddenly a heavy downpour of rain. A street of people who 1 minute had succumbed to their everyday oblivion suddenly awakened into hundreds of coloured umbrellas that I was looking down upon. The men had green and purple, the women with yellow and orange and various shades of red. There they were, a picture for any artist. The folded umbrellas in their bags and briefcases became part of everyone's reanimation. Even their umbrella seemed to come alive through its purpose and its pleasure and its colour. Now and again, you meet a person who is your umbrella, and you can become theirs. One of the great speeches of the English literature was made by Shakespeare's Henry V, King Harry, as he was called. And since some of you like your Shakespeare, let me see if I can recite this speech to you. The scene. The king is leading his men to battle. French soil against the French. He is surrounded by several of his dukes, Gloucester, Exeter, Salisbury, Bedford, and with him a small, all too small, army of his soldiers, fearful that the enemy assembled against them was too large and would run right over them. And in their fear, one of them says, "Where's the king?" And at once King Harry got up from his seat and walked in front of them, and stepping up, he was only a small man, but he stepped up on a mound so that he was now head and shoulders above all of them. And there he spoke. He said, the French may lay 20 crowns to 1 that they will beat us. If we are marked to die, we are now to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honour. And he looked around his men and he said, "He which hath no stomach for this fight, let him depart. His passport shall be made, and crowns for convoy put in his purse. We would not die in that man's company that fears his fellowship to die with us. This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named and rouse him at the day of Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbours and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feasts he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son. And Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen back in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed. they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. With such a speech, those men were transformed, becoming aware that they belonged to something bigger than each one themselves. And in that belonging they found in life and death that they were needed. There was a purpose, there was an ownership, there was a belonging, there was a reawakening to life. Three things that keep your life enhanced, enriched. The first, mutual, enjoyable recognition and confirmation. The second, the glue, the healing of the glue, the context of life, the very fabric that holds you together when things seem to be falling apart. And third, the place, the purpose, being part of the people, reawakened. That reawakening at so many points. And when we are, we know. At that point we know that we have been given surely the keys of the kingdom to open the doors to life's best moments. Would you please stand? The blessing. And so may the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forward. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.